All right, today we're digging into a pretty huge idea, a blueprint for a completely different kind of internet, one that's designed around us, actual human beings, instead of just seeing us as users to be mined for data. I mean, think back to the early days of the web. The whole promise was about connection, right? A new era of shared knowledge and open creation. But somewhere along the line, that original vision it got a little twisted. It turned into something way more centralized and honestly pretty extractive. Okay, so let's just address the elephant in the room. Digital slavery. I know, that is a heavy term, but it's the core problem that the material we're looking at today puts forward. The argument is that the way our digital world is built has created this quiet system of exploitation that, honestly, most of us are part of every single day without even thinking about it. So, to really get our heads around this, we have to define the problem first. And we're not talking about some old school industrial era kind of exploitation. This is something new, something unique to our digital age. And it sets up this idea of a huge leap from what we call the information age into a new knowledge age. So, what is digital slavery really? Well, think back to that historic movement that gave us the 8-hour workday. 8 hours for work, 8 for recreation, 8 for rest. That was a fundamental principle. You get fair pay for a fair day's work. The argument here is that today, all our digital labor, every post, every click, every single piece of data we generate is being used without fair compensation, and it's completely shattered that century-old balance. And this slide really lays out the two different worlds we're looking at. On the left, you've got the current information age. That's where we live now. We're called consumers, and our attention is the product that gets bought and sold. But on the right, you have the proposed knowledge age, where the whole model gets flipped on its head. In this world, we, human beings, are the primary stakeholders. We're the owners of our digital lives, not just users renting space on someone else's platform. So, how do we actually make that jump? Well, the first step, according to this framework, is all about reclaiming our digital identity. And we do that by owning what's called our digital twin. The key concept to understand here is the inforg. It's short for informationally embodied organism, which I know sounds pretty sci-fi. But think of it this way. It's not just your social media profile. Imagine every digital footprint you've ever made or that's been made about you. Every online purchase, every search, every location tag, all of it brought together into one complete digital version of you. That's your inforg. Now, it's really crucial to get the difference here. We're all used to the idea of a digital ID, right? It's a tool, something you have to prove who you are, like a driver's license for the internet. But an inforging, that's what you are in the digital world. It's not some tool handed to you by a corporation. It's the total sum of your digital life, and you own it, you control it. And when you own your inforg, you're suddenly in the driver's seat. You own your data, you control your devices, you decide how your personal AI agents work for you. You own your digital history, your relationships, the whole shebang. It's a massive, fundamental power shift, moving from platforms back to people. Okay, so this idea of digital ownership, it obviously leads to a whole new economic model. Because if you own your digital self, you should also own the value it creates, right? And this is where the concept of knowledge banking comes into play. So in this new economy, all of your digital contributions, your ideas, your content, the code you write, they're all treated as knowledge capital. It's the intrinsic value of your information, but it's treated as a real, transactable asset. The source material even compares it to a banknote, recognizing that your digital work has actual, tangible value. And this slide basically shows you the roadmap to getting paid fairly. First, your work is tracked as knowledge capital. Then you join projects on what are called fair terms, which generates dynamic equity. Think of it like a real-time evolving share in the project's success. And then finally, when that project creates value, you get paid fairly for your work. It's a system designed from the ground up to fix that problem of digital slavery. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. The issue isn't that people aren't working or creating value online. We're doing tons of that. The problem is that we don't have the right economic tools, the financial plumbing really, to connect all that digital work with actual real-world benefits. Okay, so this all sounds amazing in theory, but how would it actually, work? Let's take a peek under the hood at the technical blueprint that's designed to make this whole human-centric web a reality. All right, I know, this diagram looks a little complex, but hang with me for a second. You, the web as an owner, are right there in the center. See? everything flows from you. Your web as an agent is like your own personal AI, securely going out and interacting with the internet for you. And all your data, it lives in your personal vault, your own private, secure little corner of the web. It's totally different from today, where you're just a visitor on someone else's platform. In this model, you are the owner of your own little digital kingdom. And this whole system is built on 4 core principles. First, human-centric AI, which just means AI is your tool, not your boss. Second is ontological design, a fancy way of saying that human rights and ethics are literally baked into the system's code from day one. Third, open standards, which stop any one company from controlling everything. And finally, decentralized control, which means you own your personal cloud, not some tech giant. Now, this is where the vision just gets huge. It zooms way out, far beyond just empowering individuals. The idea is to scale this entire framework up to tackle our biggest global challenges by creating what the sources are calling a peace industry. And the idea starts with a new priority for governments, creating a Department of Peace. This table here shows how it would basically be the other side of the coin to a Department of Defense. While defense is focused on threats and military force, a peace department would be all about proactive peace building, using things like reconciliation and investing in social and knowledge infrastructure. It's a simple idea, but it's really powerful. Think about it. Defense spending fuels this massive, multi-trillion-dollar industry. So what if we prioritized peace in the same way? We could create an entirely new economic engine, this peace industry, that shifts all that investment and innovation away from conflict and towards building positive, sustainable outcomes for the world. So what would this industry actually make? Well, tangible stuff. We're talking about peace infrastructure projects that are focused on what the source calls medicinal Earth outcomes. This means actually going after the UN's Sustainable Development Goals head-on, building sustainable housing, making sure people have clean water, developing new technologies for resolving conflict, and protecting human rights around the globe. And when you boil it all down, it comes back to this one fundamental choice. We can either keep going down the path we're on, this information age that treats people as a resource to be exploited, or we can consciously decide to build a knowledge age that empowers us as individuals and helps us solve our biggest problems together. The code, the standards, the blueprints for this new kind of web, they're already being worked on. This isn't just a fantasy. So the only real question left is, which future are we going to choose to build?